everyone. Welcome to the Booze and Boobs podcast. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Katrina. Thanks for joining us today as we talk about some of our favorite horror movies.
We created this podcast as a way to give women more of a voice in horror. Men dominate most industries, especially film and television.
And that also goes for podcasts. We'll focus on female characters, motivations, or just expectations placed on women in horror, even if the situation is happening to a man.
We're excited you're here and we hope you love it.
Now let's get to today's movie.
We are strictly doing Halloween as an episode because it's Halloween. So, man.
Yeah. Here you go. Yeah.
I'm like, can we please go back to When a Stranger Calls? I had so much more fun with that.
Well, I think having two in a row that are not like in our top favorites, is good for us. Makes us grow as creators to do things outside of what we like. Step outside
I'm tired
of ourselves.
of growing. I'm done growing. I've been growing for like 3 years. I've done a lot of internal work, and apparently that's not enough for some people. So I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
That's too dang bad.
I think that was a pretty good way to start. I mean, what is Halloween about if it's not about never being able to escape your problems?
Yeah. Halloween for adults now is just escaping real world problems by creating a fantasy and drinking too much.
Oh, you've called out my book characters. Thanks for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'm a very simple woman.
That's a lie.
Oh, you think I'm complex?
I do.
You think I'm deep?
I never said that.
Well, I can summarize if you want.
Summarize away.
Oh boy. So the format of this episode, what we discussed doing is giving a brief summary of the original Halloween, the one that started it all. But this episode will primarily focus on the 2018 Halloween. I think that it's a better movie, and I would rather talk about that.
Agreed.
I think that there's more to talk about that. Not that I want this episode to be 2 hours long. I was super thrilled. Friday the 13th, hour 15, and out. Bye.
I think we could have done the 1978 Halloween in like 15 minutes and been done.
Well, yeah, okay. I'll raise that. Here's the summary. Little boy kills sister. Little boy goes to rehab. Little boy becomes a man. Man escapes rehab. Man goes back home to the house where he killed his sister, kills more people, is shot, and escapes. The end.
Beautiful.
I missed nothing.
I truly think you could have done it in less words if you tried. But it was perfect.
I wanted to give the appropriate summary for Halloween 1978. And I was watching it knowing that you weren't gonna love it. October episodes are just us discussing the cornerstones of
horror.
Yeah, horror. I mean, I guess I was gonna say modern horror. I guess we've taken a few shifts from that, but obviously without Halloween and Friday the 13th, the horror we know today wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
So props to them for that. Thank you. Next.
Adapt and move on.
Tell me what you did like about Halloween 1978.
You know that TikTok where it's like, you can't say something nice and you're like, I'm finding it. Is it that hard? Yes.
I'm finding it. I'm finding it. I mean, there has to be something. Come on.
Okay. I will say, overall, I think that the character of Michael Myers was simple but effective. Like he's kind of this other thing that people don't understand, and that makes him scary, but he's also like doesn't have emotion, is bold, but he's not stupid. And I think that if they like, I like that they didn't make him like stupid, like they did make him like, he uses, he sets props up, he puts, he has thought to certain things. We just don't know what it is.
He has a little
So
air
I
of
did like that.
theatricality.
Mm-hmm. Like the headstone over the dead girl, which had to have been very heavy.
That's the thing
I
about Michael Myers to me. This is very similar to the Friday the 13th movies, where I know that there's like a ton of them and they kind of have their own timelines. I have not seen them all. But Michael Myers is just, of course, the powerhouse. He can't be killed. I have not seen Halloween Ends. I kept meaning to, but then I just didn't. I did see Halloween Kills, and like the whole thing is that like he can't die. I think he's like supposed to die, like die in Halloween Ends. But then I saw something on Twitter this week that A24 and Miramax were like in a bidding war over the rights to Halloween. So I'm like, Michael Myers, he can't die. Like,
well, at this point, there's too much money in it for them to truly kill him.
yeah. So like
Um,
as a character, that's kind of interesting. I was thinking when I was watching the original, I have problems with it too, but we'll get there. We're trying to focus on the positive right now. After Laurie stabs him upstairs and he's laying outside of the closet and she's like crouched behind him, and you have like the iconic Michael Myers, he just gets up.
He just regenerates somehow.
Yeah, literally. I think you put that in your notes. It's like he just gets killed and then regenerates.
I don't know. I'm like, hello?
It's so funny.
Yeah.
I mean, so Nick Castle played Michael Myers in the original. A super low budget movie. We've already talked about how it's super iconic and changed the landscape of horror. So, I mean, tons of respect. John Carpenter is a horror master. So I can't, say anything really about him. Not all John Carpenter movies are like my taste, but I can recognize the craft in it. But I was just thinking, I was like, Nick Castle must have had some abs because the way he just sits up, and I'm like, I gotta push myself up and
Like,
wiggle away.
like, did they weigh down his ankles? Because I would have been over there like a turtle trying to. And I'm like, is there a gym in the psychiatric ward that he's in? Like, what's his workout regime?
And I think I saw something where Nick Castle was like 5'11", but Michael Myers is obviously like 7 feet tall. So I'm just like, movie magic, I guess.
Yeah, I was just thinking like, what? In the new one, like he's in the 2018 version, he's basically like what, 61 now?
Something like that, because in the first movie, he was 6, and then it's 15 years later, so 21. So yeah, 40 years later, 61.
And I'm like, for a 61-year-old man, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he's really doing it.
And I Googled like, why is Michael Myers so strong? And like there's so many like different lores out there, oh, he's possessed by a demon, or he's, because of his mental state, he doesn't feel pain or emotions, so he's able to use his full ability. And I don't know, because like you said with the Friday the 13th, like the movies kind of don't always align. Like, whereas Laurie is not his sister in Halloween 2018, but in some of the other ones, I think that she is.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was wondering when they made that comment in the 2018, I was like, does Katrina even know about the lore? I think I see, and I've seen Halloween 2. Okay, so I have seen the original Halloween 2. I turned off the Rob Zombie Halloween, which I talked about in the Friday the 13th episode because of like the gerbil stuff. So like I couldn't handle it. So that's the only one I've seen of that. And then I've seen Halloween 2018 and Halloween Kills. So that is the only timeline that I have real reference for. But I think in Halloween 2, they might say something about Laurie being his sister, but it also could be later. I do want to see, I am more inclined to see more of the Halloween movies than I am the Friday the 13th movies. I like Danielle Harris, and I know that she's like really big in like some of the later Halloween movies. So it's one of those things where it's like, if I ever got around to watching it, I might enjoy it, but it's not like my cup of tea.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the 2018 version more than I thought it would, because after watching the original Halloween, I was like, oh, and I got to do this again. But I did enjoy it, and I was like, okay, thank God. Because I was like, I don't know if I could do this.
Well, before we get into Halloween 2018, we talked about what we did like about the original Halloween. Tell me, let's get into it. What did you not like? Let's go.
I didn't like it. It was similar to the like Friday the 13th, where like all of the action happens in the last 15 to 20 minutes, basically. There's no tension, there's no suspense, because nobody knows that there's a killer running around doing all of these things.
Except
And
Dr. Loomis.
right, which his face pops up every like 20 minutes of him just standing outside the house like this. His character, I think the doctor's character could have been more developed. I did like what they did with the doctor's character in the 2018, which we'll talk about, but I think it's Michael Myers is so not subtle. Like, he's just standing there like this, and people see him all the time, but I'm like, nobody is. I get it's a scary movie. They don't know they're in the scary movie, but.
Well, my issues with the first movie mostly come into technicalities, like the scene where the three girls are walking home after school and they're walking down the sidewalk. Like, we watched them walk down the entire sidewalk, and I was like, okay, this will transition us into someplace else, but nope, we just catch a different angle from them walking on the other side. And I was like, why are we doing this? There, like you mentioned, I know that there's a lot of lore with Michael Myers, but I'm just not interested. They don't explore it in any of the movies I've seen. Now, if they're doing that in those other movies, fine for them, but I've seen like 5 of them, and I don't know what this man is doing.
No. And I think that's like what the doctor is supposed to be doing, is like, oh, kind of explaining it for him, like, oh, this is his diagnosis, this is what, but like, you don't even know. But they go over nothing supernatural at all.
The only comparison in the first one, I mean, and they mention it in the Halloween 2018, is the reference to the boogeyman, which, if it was a boogeyman movie personified in the spirit of Michael Myers, then I think that would be a game changer. Like, if the first scene of the movie, the original, had been like voices whispering to little Michael Myers, and then the next day is Halloween and he's like possessed to kill his sister, and the boogeyman spirit stays with him his whole life, that would be very interesting. But it's not. Yeah. And also, I'm super technical. The 6-year-old child, who is a little guy, and the 7-foot tall vantage point of him killing his sister, and like the pure, like, I get that Michael Myers has like strength beyond belief, like that's just like his thing, is his like invincibility, but I'm like, he's still 6 years old and he's short. So
the thing that I thought was like funny that I caught was, as he's stabbing his sister, right? Like, we're seeing through the little eye holes in the original. And then it's basically he's looking like this because all we see is like the knife moving in front of the eye holes. And I'm like, why is he not looking at her? Like,
I will make a
like
joke about that. Is like it's the signature Michael Myers move to do like the little head tilt. So he was just tilting his head so he could see the knife going.
he's like, I like to watch the knife, not who I'm stabbing, apparently.
That's why he doesn't care about who he's killing. He kills everyone. He just wants to watch it go down.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, sure. Also, like, did the parents have no inclination that they had a psychopath on their hands? I mean, he's 6 years old.
If the boogeyman spirit had infected him the night before, maybe they wouldn't have. I don't know.
But I feel like he had never spoken a word beforehand, so I feel like he was nonverbal his whole life.
I don't know if they said anything about him not speaking before
Prior?
the
Maybe.
murder. I know that was kind of a running point in Halloween 2018 is that the doctor really wanted
him to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess should we just get into Halloween 2018 and we can just kind of make our comparisons and do everything through that? Quick summary. Obviously, we've already talked about spoilers, but it's Halloween, so it's been around long enough. If you haven't seen it by now, it's not my fault. Halloween 2018 is a requel, so we pretend that Halloween 2 through however many there are don't exist. And it is obviously an older Laurie, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, and her family life and relationships are very strained. She is clinging to the trauma of being one of Michael Myers' victims. She lives basically in a safe house, and she's very aware of any and all dangers. And of course, this Halloween night, Michael Myers escapes his like transfer situation. I'm like, okay, if he's been here for however long, why are we transferring him? We apparently are good, but he's being transferred. And of course, something goes wrong. Michael Myers goes back to his hometown of Haddonfield, Illinois, and starts killing people all over again, indiscriminately. So then we get to a really cool scene at the very end where Michael Myers maybe or maybe not lives to hunt another day.
The end.
The end. Podcast is over. Gotta go.
Thank
we'll
you
see
for
you guys
listening.
next month. Yeah. So I did really, really like this. I think it's a well done movie. David Gordon Green is the director, and he and Danny McBride, aka fucking Kenny Powers, wrote the script. And that's just insane. But they're a really good duo. I think David Gordon Green did the new Exorcist movie that just came out too, but I haven't seen that yet.
Oh, I did.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Is it good?
I thought it was good.
Okay. Don't tell me anything.
I like The Nun more.
Well, who doesn't? The Nun is great.
You ready to get into it?
Yeah, Katrina wants to start it.
I'm ready. Let's go. Let's go, girls.
Dun, dun. Oh, side note. Side note before we start.
No more.
I have talked about the podcast to several of my new Bumble BFF people. So hopefully we are getting some listens.
All right. So for Halloween 2018, we open up in a psychiatric rehab facility called Smith's Grove. And the doctor is just talking to the patients about how they slept. Nothing too crazy. But we see a journalist. I don't know if they're a couple or not, but it's a man and a woman. And they're coming in.
I got vibes that like they've at least hooked up.
Yeah. They've had intimate moments, I would say, but they don't go into detail on any of it.
They're colleagues.
So they're in there to try and interview Michael Myers, who's been there for 40 years. So that's where we get he's 61 now. And we get the storyline of, well, you better do it now because he's going to be transferred to a really poor facility called like Glass Hill because Michael Myers has been there for 40 years and the research is the state doesn't want to pay for him anymore because they're not getting anything out of him, I guess. And we get the sense that the doctor is very obsessed with Michael's case. He talks about all the things he's read. He crazy too.
Yeah, Dr. what's his Sartain? Is that his name?
Something like that.
Dr. Sartain mentions how he was a student of Dr. Loomis, who was the original doctor for the Halloween movies. And at the time, he was like the biggest star that was in the movie. So that's why he gets like first billing and everything. So this new doctor was obsessed with Michael's case. He said that he lobbied the University of Illinois to be placed in care of Michael Myers. He really wanted to study him, and he's been with him for years and years and years and years and years. So he's very attached to the case, kind of in a little bit of a feminine way, wouldn't you say? Like the obsession.
He takes on a caring role, because he's very concerned about Michael's well-being of him going to this other facility. Because he talks about, they get fresh sunshine and well taken care of here, and he's like, I don't know how they're gonna treat him over in that hole of a place. And then later on, he even like escorts him on the bus.
Well, yeah. He's caring about his well-being and things like that, but he's also, creating a relationship with him and Michael Myers. And we see that because, of course, Michael Myers has to escape. So, follow the formula. The doctor has to run around and try and find him and things like that. But he's trying to get Michael to speak to him. He wants to form a relationship. He wants to have a breakthrough. He wants something that no one's ever been able to have before. And while I wouldn't say that, like, all of these traits are strictly feminine, I think they're assigned to femininity more often. Because even when men are obsessed with something, there's still like a level of detachment. But this is very, very intense. So it just kind of reminded me of that. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, and he kind of it seems like this is his life. Like, he has other patients and everything, but like Michael Myers is his life.
Me too.
Not me. But so the doctor takes the journalist out to this, I'm gonna guess is where they get their sunshine and air, but it's like a concrete floor area, like an open area. And all the patients are like chained to a concrete block with like a yellow square tape around them. So it's like you're getting your sunshine, but you're not safe. Like, you're not safe enough to just roam around.
Yeah, it's very cold.
Yeah.
And by the looks of who the other patients are, this is a very high level, probably high security facility where everyone's kind of just off their rockers. So
yeah, because even the doctor says, tie your shoelaces because the guy with the umbrella has a really big affliction with those things and he will freak out. But I don't know, I kind of had a problem with how they were trying to like approach him, which, I mean, it's Michael Myers, like he doesn't care, obviously.
Michael Myers don't give a fuck.
He is the definition of I don't give a fuck. So Aaron, the male journalist, he introduces himself and like steps toes up to the yellow line. And I'm like, that's bold. And then takes out Michael Myers' mask and is
Bum,
like
bum,
trying
bum.
and is like, I know you know it, you can feel it, like taunting him. And Michael never turns around. He just
He
stands there.
he stands there. There is like one scene where he like kind of shifts like he's about
Yeah.
to turn his head to look over his shoulder, but Michael Myers is really just like a presence. So whatever is around him, the information just soaks into him.
Yeah.
So he's like, I that's mine.
And then, but all the other patients start freaking out, screaming. The dog is barking. Like they can sense. I feel like something in Michael was like churning, and like the mood changed.
He's
And
evil.
he just kept yelling like, say something. And I'm like, he's not going to. I mean, but he could have walked around to the front of the circle and met him face to face.
But we have never like really seen Michael Myers like that. In the first one, Laurie pulls off his mask and we get like a little bit of shadow, but it's pretty quick. So like we can see that there is a face, but it's not like we don't ever get like a reveal. Did you know? And I'm just asking because of you. Do you know what the Halloween mask is?
No, I'm assuming it's skin, but is it somebody's face?
It like the prop. It's
Mm-hmm.
a William Shatner Star Trek mask.
Really?
That's what it originally was, and like painted and things like that. So
Oh,
that's originally what it was. So
interesting.
we wouldn't be a
Did not know
Halloween
that.
podcast if we wouldn't be doing an episode about Halloween if we didn't put that fact in there. So
Yeah. So basically, after he just yells, say something at him a bunch of times, we get the title screen and the music.
oh my
And that's
god,
the opening scene.
the first Halloween, it's like every 10 seconds, it's like and I was like, wait a minute, is there anything else? But I thought that the way that the 2018 used the score, they would make it like higher pitched, lower pitched, they'd like slow it down. And I'd be like, I see what you're doing there. But the first one, they're just like, we got one song that we can use. And the director, like, he composed it because he was just like,
Yeah. I remember what I didn't like about it. Is like when I was watching the 1978 version, I had the volume 100%. Like, and I could barely make out what they were like. I could hear the like discussion a little bit, but then as soon as like the music came on, I was like,
what app were you
it
watching it
was
on?
um
I watched it on Crackle, and there
no,
were a few conversations that I was like, what? So I didn't know if it was the same one.
no, it was not, maybe it was Freebie or something like that.
I wish I would have watched it on Freebie. I like Freebie the most. Oh, I like Tubi too.
I don't know. It was no, it wasn't Freebie. It was something I had to download, but it wasn't Crackle. I don't remember, but I do know like the conversations, the volume was so low, but the music was so high that it was very distracting. And I'm like, if I didn't have subtitles, I'd have no idea what's going on right now.
So now we're getting into the real movie. We follow the podcasters. I don't even know what the girl's name is.
I just say the female journalist because I've never heard her name throughout this whole thing.
Well, we are a feminist podcast. Halloween 2018. Also, that girl is hot.
She is.
So I'm gonna name her. Can we give a shout out to Judy Greer? Anything she's in, she's amazing. Dana. I did know that. Dana. Dana and Aaron.
That. Yes.
Dana and Aaron are our podcasters. Not to be confused with Rachel and Katrina, who are better podcasters, much more entertaining, and we do not go around taunting serial killers.
We have boundaries and common sense.
Well, so we're with Aaron and Dana at a secluded house. They're outside of a gate in their car, talking about how they need the other side of the story. And they're talking about how they're going to gain access to this house, which we learn is where Laurie Strode lives, our final girl. And Dana gives Aaron an envelope of money, and Aaron says journalists don't pay for their interviews, and Dana gives them this little look. And then they do the little call box thing, and they tell Laurie that they're there, they want information, and Laurie's like, no. And then Dana's like, how about $3,000? And then they get buzzed in. And I'm like,
as she should. Hey, get your money.
I'm like, yeah, girl, I get it. So we see Laurie unlocking the several locks on her door, and then they're having the conversation. The crux of it is the podcasters want to humanize Michael Myers, and Laurie's like, why? He's evil, he's bad. And they think that they're getting a leg up on Laurie to be like, well, they're transferring him tomorrow. And she's like, yeah, 7 a.m.
Yeah.
And
like, you think that she has all the security and she's not gonna know his schedule? Whatever.
I wouldn't be surprised if she had hacked into like the camera feed and she had her own thing set up. Dana and Aaron kind of break it down. They change their tactics, which is good because they're talking to like an actual human being who is a victim. And they're trying to get her side of the story. They suggest putting Michael and Laurie in a room together, that Laurie will be able to tell Michael everything that she's been holding back, and then she'll finally be able to let go of the past. And Laurie, with her whole chest, is like, get the fuck out of my house. Because duh. And the podcasters bring up how Laurie has been twice divorced. Her daughter was taken away with social services. And she's like, how did you get her back? Or how did you regain custody? And Laurie's like, I didn't, but I'm sure you already knew that. So
yeah,
their tactics are just so off, like for both sides of it. I mean, they're interesting characters. Like, I enjoy the time that we're with the podcasters because it's not for very long, but very interesting. I would never, especially going into somebody's house and be like, yo, Laurie, why are you so fucked up?
Well, and it's like, if you know this information, like, what are you trying to coax, like, goad out of her? Like, you're not learning anything new by asking those things. You're just pissing her off.
Exactly. Like, especially to go after her family. Like, oh, and here's also the thing is, so Laurie Strode is in Halloween 2, I think Halloween H2, like she's in some of the other movies, but she's not in all of them. But because this is a requel, it's a little confusing what pieces of the timeline like would be considered canon in this universe and what wouldn't. Because like they're saying Michael Myers isn't her brother in this story, but does that mean that nothing else exists? Because it gives you pause to think, you know, even the one night that Laurie suffered with Michael would probably be enough to like fuck you up forever. But if you would also consider the several other instances where they've been circling around each other for a lifetime, and you want to go into this lady's house and be like, so you have problems making personal connections. And it's like, okay, the sky is blue. What the fuck?
Yeah, I don't get it. But they are not successful, and she does get her money. So good for her.
Yeah, it's like a long take where Laurie stands up, goes, unlocks her door, opens it, looks outside, and she's like, get out. And then she holds her hand out and she's like, I'll accept my payment. I'm like, good for you, girl. I take that 3K.
Like, she promised nothing. Like, she didn't promise like a minimum amount of information. So like, yeah, pay up or shut up. Or both, actually. Pay up and shut up.
That's what you should have named
So
this scene. Okay. I
I
have a
didn't name
complaint.
these.
Yeah,
Ugh.
exactly. Katrina, for the first movie, she did a few scene names and they were really fantastic. And then I kept scrolling and she stopped. Then she watched Halloween 2018. I was excited to see nothing. What do I get? Nothing.
Well, here's my thing. I struggled with this movie more than others to kind of like split scene to scene because like this movie I feel like just flows a lot and there's really not a lot of like cut and dry. Okay, this is the next scene, this is the next scene. So I was like, ugh. And in my defense, it's also the first time watching it through. Okay.
It's okay.
So I will do better on the next movie, which we don't know what that is yet.
That's what I was gonna say. I was like, it's like if you want to spoil that for me, what is it gonna be?
We'll see. We'll see. But we cut to Karen, Ray, and Allison, which we learn is Karen is Lori's daughter, Ray is Karen's husband, and Allison is the granddaughter of Lori or Karen's daughter. And Allison is talking about her boyfriend and that they're gonna meet Cameron and Ray. I don't know. I don't really like Ray. He's kind of like insignificant to this movie to me. And he's just like, blech.
He's like a fun dad and he's got this weird obsession with setting the mouse traps, but then he like spills peanut butter on himself and he's like, I got peanut butter on my penis. And I'm like, it's not that it's not like funny and it's not that it's inappropriate, but when it's like your wife and your teenage daughter are the only audience that you have, I'm just like, it's weird.
Yeah, he's a weird guy.
Like for all the trauma my father gave me, honestly, I cannot ever recall him mentioning his penis. So
no.
Good for you, Dad.
The only time I remember it is when they were telling a funny story of like when my oldest sister was really young. I guess like she was in the bathroom on the toilet or something, and my dad stepped out of the shower and she didn't know any better and she just went yank.
Who did?
Faye.
Oh my God.
And so from then on, my dad looked both ways before exiting a shower after that because he was traumatized.
Now, see, my brother, he would like run up the stairs and then like moon all of us.
Oh my God.
So I'm like, okay. But I feel like that's way different than a parent.
Oh, yeah. Brothers are gross.
Yeah, brothers are gross. So it's a really quick scene where we're just getting some family dynamics. The family seems pretty put together. They're going to meet the boyfriend. We got a little bit of humor to break the tension. And now we're going to follow Allison to school.
Yeah. So we meet Cameron, which is her boyfriend. Gross. And
I literally.
Yeah. At the same time, and then I said gross, Rachel went,
well, and it's funny because in Katrina's notes, so Cameron and Allison, like they're kissing in the hallway, and then like the funny fat friend pops up and he's like, oh, you guys make me want to barf. And Katrina's note was like, sounds like Rachel. And I'm like, at first I was offended, but now I see your point.
Because, okay, side note, on the cruise, I had to text my wife through Rachel's phone because Rachel had the only like Wi-Fi connection service, and she'd always be like, ugh, your wife, gross, or something like that. She always had a comment, but it's fine.
It's okay. I kept all the messages that you and Yuri sent, so if you ever do make me mad one day, I'll expose your love.
No, not the love with my wife. But we go to I almost said Lori, but we see Alice in an English class, and it's kind of a throwback reference to the 1978 where Lori was in the back of the English class and first sees Michael Myers. But when Allison looks out the window, she sees her grandma outside. And I'm like, creeper?
Well, I think that that's very interesting. Like, of course, it's a reference shot and it's cool, but how when we see Michael Myers at first, we're all like, in the first movie, we're all like unsettled and we're like, oh, what is that? This is so weird. We're seeing some creepy man standing outside. But now when we see Laurie, I'm like, that's a motherfucking badass.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, like I'm safe. If Laurie's around, I'm good.
Yeah. As she may be crazy, but she's a badass.
Well, and then that takes us to like the next scene. So Allison goes out to see Laurie. I don't know if it's like free period or something. They're standing out by like the football field. And Laurie gives Allison that envelope of cash from the podcasters. And Allison's like, I can't take this. And Laurie's like, take it. And Laurie breaks it down to Allison that college is useless. Like the real horrors of the world are out there. And I'm like, true. And she's like, go to Mexico. Wouldn't that be nice? And Allison's like, can't you just imagine it? And Laurie's like, I can. And I think it's because Laurie, through her trauma, like she is so frightened to go anywhere or do anything. And she's in constant survival mode, constant panic. She's always worried about her family. So she can imagine it, but she could never feel safe going anywhere, doing anything because of all of the things that could happen. And it's a really real moment. But then Allison is kind of harping on Laurie to get over it, and her relationship with her Laurie's relationship with her daughter, ergo her relationship with her granddaughter is very strained. Like, can't you just like let this all go? Like for us, like we've had all this stuff. And Laurie is like, if your mom has a problem with the way that I raised her, but it left her prepared and she can handle situations, that's fine by me. I'm like it's a very real conversation. And while there's drama to it and it's heightened and everyone calls Laurie like the crazy lady who's always so scared about everything, guess who ended up being proven right? Yep. So now who's to say she wasn't overboard for so long and maybe she could have ended up having the same result with less intense methods, but it worked. So good for her.
Yep. Yeah, and I thought it was kind of like bold of Allison to like be that forward with her grandmother. And I was like, good for her, because could not be me.
Well, I think because in the first kitchen scene, Allison asked Karen if she had invited her grandma to this dinner that they're going to have that night where the parents are going to meet the boyfriend. It's a celebration because Allison got into the National Honor Society. So Allison wanted her grandma there. Like, she's in town close enough. Like, they have a relationship with each other. And Karen's like, yeah, I did. But she's not going to be able to make it. And Allison basically calls her on her bullshit. But Allison and Laurie, they do have this relationship. So I think probably by the nature of them not having a typical relationship, like they're probably not like, you know, baking cookies at Christmas together or doing anything like that. Like their relationship probably is just super direct and cut and dry because there's no room for all of the fluff.
Yeah.
So I think it works.
Yeah, I agree. So after that, we see Laurie practicing at her gun range, just being an overall badass and showing all the guns that she has.
Yeah, and then the scene where she's cleaning her guns and doing her little drill, she's wearing a tank top, and I thought that was very Sarah Connor of her.
In the next scene, in the background, we hear like an interview with like a doctor about Michael Myers.
Do you know
I think it's with the Dr. Loomis, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Look at me go.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it was like they used like deleted like dialogue and things like that to recreate it being the actual actor. I don't think it was AI, but that's why like it's like a huge deal because Dr. Loomis is probably a bigger presence in Halloween than Laurie, beyond Michael Myers, of course. So it was a really beautiful homage to include him in that. Carry on. I almost stopped.
No, you're fine. So we hear an interview with Dr. Loomis in the background talking about, just kill him. It needs to die. So really just kind of giving the framework of this doctor doesn't really view Michael Myers as a person, just as like a monster, basically.
I wonder why.
Yeah. And we see all of these patients getting loaded up to be transferred. And Michael Myers' new doctor, Dr. Sartain, he consoles Michael like he needs it. Don't worry, I'll be by your side. And he decides he's going to ride the bus with him because my job isn't done until he's in somebody else's care. Which I was like, okay, sure. But then later I'm like, I see what you did there.
Sure, Jan.
And then from a distance, like, it like zooms out and Lori is watching the bus drive away and like she screams. And I'm like, I could just like, you can sense the frustration in it because she later talked about how like she just wanted to kill him right then and there. So the restraint she had for that. But we finally get to dinner with Karen, Ray, Allison, and Cameron, and they're just shooting the shit, talking about random things, talking about how they're going to be Bonnie and Clyde for their costume party.
We were just said Bonnie and Clyde. Oh. Anyways,
it wouldn't be a Booze and Boobs podcast without Rachel making a Taylor Swift reference.
I've already talked about her. Well, you know what? I'll talk about her again. So the one that does not exist.
Allison kind of like tests her mom and says, "Oh, is grandma coming?" And of course she lied. And then Lori shows up, chugs some of the wine, and is kind of just having like a little bit of a freak, like a panic moment, just kind of like rambling. And they're like, can we just not do this right now? But all she talks about is Michael Myers because that's all that she really can talk about, it seems like.
Oh my God, is Taylor Swift my Michael Myers?
Oh my God. No, because that would make you Lori.
And
Taylor Swift has never tried to kill you.
That is not true. That is not true.
I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole. We're gonna leave it at that. So Karen's just trying to get her to like chill and like just be normal because that's all she's really ever wanted is like a normal mom, don't we all? I'm just kidding. Normal moms would be boring. So Lori just ends up like running out of the restaurant, which I'm like, okay, fair enough. She tried. She was there. She arrived. That was effort. I'm proud of her for that. But then we kind of get like a little bit of a peek into like Karen's childhood, talking about how she had to learn how to fight and shoot a gun at the age of 8 years old. And I'm like, honestly, it just sounds like you live in rural America. But after all that drama, we cut to another strained father-son relationship.
Another one.
DJ Khaled. No.
We're the best.
Podcast. I'm kidding.
We podcast.
Okay. So we see a father and a son on their way on like a hunting trip, and the little boy is basically telling his dad, like, bro, I'm missing dance class for this, and I'd much rather be doing that. And the dad's like, do you really like dance class that much that you would rather do that than hunting and fishing? And he's like, yeah. And I really like that the dad wasn't like a jerk about it.
I thought it was like a very healthy avenue of communication. And this kid, I mean, he can't like be any older 10. Than I was like absolutely no older than 12, but like 10 I think is very accurate. Very communicative. And he's like, Dad, I really love spending time with you, and I'm fine to go hunting on the weekends or something, but like I also want to do the things I'm interested in. And the dad like was like, okay. And I'm like, oh, what is
it was nice because like as short of a time as we get with them, like you're like, oh, this is like a cute little father-son relationship, they're just a normal family. So you kind of care about them.
But
But
then
it turns out they're in a horror movie.
I hate
So
when that
that
happens.
can't last long. Um, they come across the bus that Michael Myers was in crashed in the ditch. And so the dad gets out to kind of investigate, and he tells him to call the cops. So the kid calls the cops and is reporting it. He gets scared by like some banging around. But then his dad doesn't really come back. And the police ask him a question, and he's like, let me find out. Like, no, get out. So he gets out with the gun, which is not really that bad of an idea because they're on their way hunting. And he sees a police officer in the ditch, and the officer is just telling him to run. And I'm like, okay, yeah, do that. Do that. He goes up into the bus.
Big mistake. Huge.
Yeah. The doctor jumps out and says, don't shoot. Maybe you should say, don't shoot, and then jump out. Just a thought. But the kid shoots Dr. Sertain. I can never gonna get it right. And just shoots him in the shoulder, and he gets scared and runs off. I'm like, oh fuck. That scarred him for life. Well, his life's not that long though. Because he goes back to the truck, and guess who's in the back seat?
Sitting in the back seat. Fun. Yeah, the first time I saw this, I mean, I shouldn't be surprised, but when Michael Myers murked that kid, I was like, oh fuck. Like we're not messing around.
He gave no hesitation, no fucks. And honestly, I was like, well, I don't know what it is, but Michael Myers cannot shut a door to save his life. And I'm like, I know you weren't born in a barn, but he literally never shuts a door or a window that he goes through. And maybe that's the side of him that just doesn't feel compassion and thinks of others. Like, listen, you're gonna run up my electricity bill because you're letting all the AC out.
My darn light bill.
Well, at least he's not slamming doors in houses he doesn't pay bills in. But
I was telling you to slam a screen door.
Not Michael Myers. But yeah, kid dies. He did. Poor little kid. And this is at the point where I made the note. I'm like, this movie is already 10 times better than the original. Like, we're like 20 minutes in, and I'm like, okay, I am enjoying this movie so far. Not because a child died, but because there's a storyline.
Are you sure?
Maybe. But I was like, oh, I'm enjoying this movie. And then we see that the sheriff, who is the original sheriff from Halloween 1978, gets dispatched to the wreck. And when he arrives, he calls for backup, saying officer down. And then we see it like scans over the little kid's dad, and his neck, the angle. I know you haven't seen it yet, but I'm just gonna say it in here and you can reference it back later. But it's like Sasha Colby, basically.
Okay.
Once you catch up on RuPaul's Drag Race, you will understand. So the sheriff goes into the bus, and all the doctor cares about is, did he escape? Bruh. How about you get some medical attention and then you worry about that later?
Obsession.
Much. Maybe he should see a psychiatrist. Doctors need doctors, so
go like The Sopranos.
Don't know what you're referring to.
Girl, you gotta watch The Sopranos. You want to talk about an obsession? I need to watch more of The Sopranos.
We'll see.
One of my group chats this morning started talking about Tony Soprano, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm awake now. I like my spidey senses are tingling. Let me talk about Daddy Soprano over here, because
I don't think I've ever seen an episode of The Sopranos.
I think you'd like it. It is a really good show. So we are back with Aaron and Dana, our podcasters. They call themselves investigative journalists. I call them podcasters. They are not better than us. But they are visiting the Haddonfield Cemetery. Someone is escorting them to Judith Myers' grave. The headstone has been replaced since the original, where Michael Myers like dug up the headstone. And the graveyard worker person, I just made my hair worse.
It's a good thing we're not a video podcast.
It's just gonna stay down at this point. The person who works in the graveyard who escorted them to the cemetery plot was kind of saying like, this is pretty much our only claim to fame in Haddonfield. But then she asks, what's the big deal? So I'm like, okay, well, if it's your claim to fame, so you know what's going on, then why are you asking why Judith Myers is so special? But it was in the script. That way the investigative journalists can kind of run through the plot of the first Halloween, where the summary at the beginning of this podcast: little kid kills his sister, little kid turns into man, little man escapes, man kills more people. So we've got that. But then while they're telling their story, we see a shape off in the distance that is Michael Myers, and he's made his way back to Haddonfield. Bring it down. So then we're back with the cops and the sheriff. They are discussing that most of the patients have been accounted for except one, and they're contemplating if they should cancel Halloween and all the activities and things like that, because it's very obvious that Michael Myers will be making his way back to Haddonfield. It's not like he hasn't done it in 12 movies or however many there are. I assume that he finds his way back to Haddonfield in every single one of them. That's my headcanon. But while they're having this conversation, Michael Myers is back in the town. He has stolen another car. He has tracked the investigative journalists to a gas station where they're just filling up. The girl goes inside to pee, and the guy is like going inside to pay, but there's the man who's at the desk. Aaron walks around and sees like his jaw has been like dislocated, and in the garage that's attached, he finds a dead body that his like coveralls are gone, so he's just wearing a tank top and underwear. Katrina wrote in her notes, AA Ron finds the cashier and mechanic dead. But so we're getting the little things that the coveralls that the mechanic has worn. Where could they have gone? And somebody is opening up the doors in the bathroom stalls, gets to where Dana is, and she's like, someone's in here. And then I had the thought, it's like, isn't it funny? Because everybody does this when they're in the bathroom. We just say, someone's in here. We're not, I mean, nobody would say like, Rachel's in here, but it's not, I'm in here. It's just someone, but it's like, we are the someone saying.
Yeah,
weird,
I don't
right?
know why, but I panic thinking like, what am I supposed to say back? Like when someone knocks, and like sometimes I say occupied. Sometimes I'm like,
that makes more sense than someone. Who?
Yeah. Okay.
So back to Dana in the bathroom. Michael Myers is trying to bang on the door, get her out. Dana sees a hand go over the stall that she's at, and it drops bloody teeth. So that's pretty yucky. And she freaks out, and she starts climbing and like crawling underneath the stalls. And then Michael Myers like pulls her out of one. But she kicks him off, gets under another one, locks herself in, and she's braced against the door. Aaron comes in because he hears her shouting, and he has found these other dead bodies. And then he tries to fight Michael Myers, but unless your name is Laurie Strode, you don't fight Michael Myers and win. So he's dead. Then she's dead. And Michael Myers goes to the trunk of their car and he puts on his mask. At last, my face is complete again.
It's like his safe zone where he's like, this is where I'm home.
Yeah, so I mean, he can kill without it, of course, but he's like, nah,
Right.
like this is the look for me.
This is the preference.
Yeah. Katrina's note said he gets his little masky mask and all is well. I was like,
It's all he wanted.
I'm like, dead. So they go to so the news is covering the fact that the patient bus had wrecked. Lori overhears it. Now she is getting ready because she knows what's happening. She hits a switch in her house and it moves the kitchen island. It kind of swivels and it reveals like a little bunker underneath. And then she just grabs her supplies. And then we see Karen coming home from the grocery store. I assume she's carrying a paper bag. And her back door is open. And she starts like sliding around the house and she's like, hello. She's calling for her husband or her daughter. And then her husband does come out of the door that was open and he's like, hey, how's it going? And she's like, hold on. And then Lori like pops up from around the stairs and like holds out a gun and she's like, bang, you're dead. You're dead. And trying to tell him like, you guys aren't prepared for what's happening. Karen and Ray just kick her out of the house. They do ask her why she's being so crazy, and Lori just starts talking about you need to be prepared, but she's not saying Michael Myers escaped from the bus, which I think would be a very key phrase into not getting kicked out of your daughter's house.
Well, and especially getting your granddaughter, getting a hold of her before her phone ends up in a bowl of pudding. Just saying.
Spoiler.
We're gonna get there anyway. But I think it's like everybody has that flight, fright, or freeze mode. Lori entered her fight mode for sure. And I was gonna say with this scene, this was my first time watching it, and I was confused. I was like, oh shit, Michael Myers is in her house. And then I was like, oh, it's fucking Ray. Like fucking men. And then it was Lori, and I was like, God damn it, how many times are they gonna trick me into who opened this door?
Well, and then it happens.
So we cut to the gas station where everybody was murdered, and the sheriff sees all the dead journalists, and we see, oh, it is the same sheriff, because like we only got like a little glance of him before, but like this kind of like solidified that it is. And then it's like Halloween night, and there's kids walking around all over the place. Like it is popping. I will say in like the first, like the 1978 version, like Halloween night, nobody was out. Like the streets were empty. But right now, there's just kids everywhere, and it's like an epidemic. So Michael Myers is just walking around because it's not odd for people to be wearing masks on Halloween. He runs into some kid, they get scared, but then he just waltzes into an open shed, steals a hammer, and just kills a lady. Random lady.
I know, he uses the hammer to go in and kill this lady who was just making herself a sandwich, and she seemed pretty pleased with it, but he kills her with a hammer and then takes the butcher knife. So
like he could have just taken the knife, but you know
last, what? His arm is complete again.
And he walks through the house, and like you hear a baby crying, and I was like, oh god, he's gonna kill the baby, but he just keeps walking. And
so he'll kill the 10-year-old, but he's like, not the baby.
Yeah, the baby didn't get in his way, I guess. And he's such a fucking like peeping Tom. Like, so the next he like goes to a different house now that he has his knife, and is just staring, doing the classic staring into a woman's window, watching them. And this woman's on the phone with a friend, and she told her about the bus wreck and everything. She said, oh, definitely lock my doors. Not fast enough. Not fast enough. And your windows. Lock your doors and your windows.
Yeah, because she goes over and she just like, she doesn't close the blinds. She just like puts them down, but you can still see through them. But Michael, he's already there.
Stabbed
her right through the throat. And that lady, Like she just flopped over. Like there was no like she's just like dead. So
and I'm like, are people gonna think that this is a Halloween prop if they look in? Maybe, unless they like actually know her.
that's a good point.
Um, so yeah.
So now we are at the high school dance where I made my note that it's like this ripoff of the Icona Pop, like, I don't care, I love it. It's the exact same music, measures, and beats. And it wasn't really in because like I had the captions on, so it was like saying this, and I was like, these aren't the words to this song. But I don't know what it was. And I'm like, this was like a studio movie. Like, this is a big deal. If you guys just wanted to play I Love It, you could have played I Love It. I don't know what this thing is, but that was my takeaway. And the reveal is that Cameron and Allison have dressed in a gender swapped Bonnie and Clyde. So Cameron is in like a skirt and a little beret, and Allison is in like the big like trouser suit. So ha 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 ha. It's cute. It's cute. I'm just a hater. And Allison, while at the dance, sees Cameron with some other girl and they kiss. Cameron sees Allison seeing him kiss someone. Then he chases after her and he's like very dismissive. I don't remember. Like the first time I saw this, I thought that he was doing like one of those, like, she kissed me, like, I don't know, which is already weird. But he was like, you didn't see what you saw. And
literal definition of gaslighting.
But it was the way that he went about it. But he offered no explanation. There was no, she kissed me, which it looked like the girl did kiss him. But it was just very odd. And Allison's phone starts ringing. And then Cameron takes it out of her hand and then throws it in a big bowl of pudding.
Yeah, because he was like already tired of it because she like answered a phone call during their dance and it was like her friend Vicky who was babysitting. And like, oh, come over later and we'll smoke weed, basically. And so he's like, can you just not answer your phone? And then it looked like pudding. I don't know why there was a bowl of pudding, but that the texture is what I think that it was. I don't know.
I mean, it wasn't punch.
Right. It was gelatinous in some sort.
Goop.
Truly. So she no longer has her phone, which is a key part of this movie.
Yep. And Lori is driving around. She's listening to the police radio. She is heading over to her daughter's house. Then this is one of my favorite scenes of the movie. We go to where Vicky is babysitting Julian, and Vicky is one of Allison's friends. We saw her and her boyfriend Dave walking with Allison to school earlier. They're nice characters. I like them a lot. Vicky and Julian are watching something together. Vicky was on the phone with Allison earlier, saying like, are you guys going to come over so we can do a little alakazam? She hangs up the phone and Julian's like, I know alakazam means you guys are going to come over here and smoke weed. Like this kid that she's babysitting, he is on one. Like he's basically an 80-year-old man. And he said something about, I wouldn't be over here clipping my nasty ass toenails and doing stuff. He is just a delight. Vicky and Julian have a very good relationship. Vicky says something about how he's like her 10th favorite kid. And he's like, I thought I was a favorite. And she's like, not anymore. You have an attitude. So then she sends him off to bed. It's sweet. They're totally fine. Then Dave shows up. They're doing a little bit of dry humping because it's a Halloween movie. So babysitters,
babysitting, having sex means you die.
Yeah. So they're just dry humping. They don't have sex, but they still die. And they hear Julian scream upstairs. He's running down. He's telling Vicky that like, somebody's in his closet or like in his room. Like he's super scared. Vicky thinks it's a joke. And she says that she's going to go look. And then Julian's like, no, send Dave up there. And Dave's like, excuse me. But
sacrifice the man.
I mean, for real. But Vicky does go up there and she looks around and she starts pretending like, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. Please leave. And she puts on this whole thing and then she jumps out and scares Julian. Um, it's very endearing. It makes me really like these characters. So I was very sad when you know who was in the closet and marked our girl.
Yeah, and honestly, this whole time, like, so Dave just went to go smoke a cigarette or Alakazam outside while she went to investigate some spooky stuff. And I'm like, bruh, really?
They don't know. They don't know they're in a horror movie.
They don't, I mean, they don't know. They don't know. But I'm like, she didn't even look that well because she didn't turn the light on. And when I saw Dave outside smoking, I was like, he looks like a not as cute version of Cole Sprouse. I don't know who the actor is, but
I don't think Cole Sprouse is cute either. So
I know that people do, but I'm like, he's less attractive than Cole Sprouse, but he kind of looks like him. So that was just kind of my note there. And then he decides to like start up the motorcycle and drop it in the fucking garage. I was like, children. Like, those things are heavy.
He's so weird. But
yeah.
So
they die.
Well, yeah, Dave hears Vicky scream. He goes in. Julian's running out the stairs saying, like, run away, you're gonna die. And Julian, like, he just leaves because he did try to help Vicky a little bit, but she was just like, run, run, run while she's getting stabbed. Good babysitter.
Yeah. Not paid enough.
Well, not that she has anywhere to spend that money.
True.
But Dave goes up and tries to help. Dead. So sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Somebody called in a domestic disturbance at the house, at Julian's house. And so the sheriff arrives, and Lori also hears it because she's listening to the scanner. And when the sheriff arrives, he walks in, he kind of announces himself, he's looking around, he sees some blood. But when Lori drives up to the house, she sees kids and she's like, get out of here, run away. Like she's like trying to get as many people away as possible, whereas the sheriff's trying to be like quiet about it. But when the sheriff goes upstairs into the bedroom, he sees somebody sitting in a chair with like a ghost sheet over them. And when they uncover it, it's Vicky all bloody. And
R.I.P.
During all of this, Lori is outside and she sees Michael in a window and she shoots at him. She has great aim. She's been practicing for 40 years, but it ends up being a mirror. And I thought that was a really cool, like, kind of like twist there because it was like, oh, gotcha, but not really. So Michael just walks past the bedroom that the sheriff is in. Like, he doesn't even care.
Michael Myers don't give a fuck.
He really doesn't. Like, the sheriff takes 2 shots, and I don't know what he was shooting at, but it wasn't Michael.
Because it was the wall when he was going downstairs.
He was already downstairs. But he gets out, Michael gets outside, and Lori shoots him in the shoulder, and he just continues walking like he didn't even stumble. But the sheriff, Frank, comes up behind her and scares her, and she like whacks him in the face.
Well, he shouldn't have been standing there.
Right? Like, this is a high stress situation. Don't be sneaking up on people. But the doctor then arrives and he's awake from his shot wound, I don't know, and says that he'll keep killing. And then when he realizes that, oh, this is Laurie Strode, he kind of like goes into this whole weird
fangirl deal.
Yeah. And then Lori basically was like, I prayed every night that he would escape so I could kill him. And the sheriff was like, well, that was a pretty dumb prayer. Like,
yeah.
Fair. So, but I think she just wants it to be over with. She's like, I just want peace. And there's no peace unless Michael's head is removed from his body.
I don't think that they've tried that yet in the franchise.
How do you regenerate from that? I don't know. It
It
works
would
for
be
vampires.
it would be like the pirate in Pirates of the Caribbean 2, where his head like falls off and he's like a little hermit crab and he's like, over here, over here. That's
There's
what I think.
cut off Michael Myers' head, stick it in a fucking concrete block, like put him in some cement, let it dry, put his body in cement, let it dry, send one half of it to the other side of the world. At the bottom of the ocean. I don't care. Ocean is probably better though. Nobody will get there. Allison and the chubby friend zone boy are like talking after Allison was really upset about Cameron kissing another girl. And he does this whole like, oh, but you're so pretty. He's so lucky. He doesn't even realize. I'm like, bro, don't be trying to escape the friend zone literally within an hour of her being heartbroken. Come on now. Have some class. And like, we're kind of going back and forth a little bit here, but like, we go back to the doctor who is contemplating if like Michael Myers' murders are random or if they're actually like driven by something. And when he was talking to the sheriff was basically like, back in the day, like our job was just to hunt him down. The doctor makes the comment that Michael is property of the state and must not be harmed. And this was kind of like a red flag for me. And I was like, fuck off. Like, this dude is murdering people. Kill him. And then submit his brain to science if you really want to study him even further, because he's not saying anything. He's not helping you. That's why he's going to a different facility. My rant is over.
I was like, Katrina has thoughts. We've also got the scene where Lori now shows up at her daughter's house again, and she's with cops this time, and they're all talking about how they're trying to get a hold of Allison because Michael Myers has escaped. He's out. He's killing people, and they need to find Allison so that they can go somewhere safe. And Allison's phone is in a bowl of pudding, and that helps nobody. So then we go back to Allison, who, after she had turned down the friend, she left the yard that they were cutting through, and homeboy, he was drunk. He saw Michael Myers off in the corner, but he didn't realize who it was, and he just started complaining about like I just wanted to, like, I like this girl. You ever like a girl and it just doesn't go your way? And Michael Myers kills him and
thank God.
kind of hangs his body up through the little fence gate thing of this house. And then Allison tries to go back because she felt bad about leaving him. But then she just finds his body. So she runs around and she tries to find help. And then she knocked on some door and then they took her in. And then the police find her. So now the family is going to be reunited, except that doesn't happen. Because
and I love, like, in the part where the kid is trying to escape Michael Myers, his like cape gets caught at the bottom of the fence, and that's why he can't jump over. And in my head the whole time I was thinking Edna Mode, like where she's like, no capes. This is why you don't wear capes. We go back to Lauren, Jesus Christ, I combined
Allison?
I combined Lori and Karen.
Oh, well, that kind of works.
Lauren. It does, right?
I really like the name Lauren.
It is a good name.
I like Lauren. It's a nice name.
So we go back to Lori screaming at Karen, which I can't blame her, because like she tried to like warn her, and she's kind of just like fed up, and she's like, I can't do much else at this point. Like, she's trying to do everything, and Karen is just freaking out, and she just needs her to chill the fuck out. So Karen, Lori, and Ray are actually now at Lori's bunker. Did I say Lauren again?
No, you said Lori.
Okay, I did. So they're now at Lori's bunker place, and they go down into the basement, and Ray is kind of like confused and concerned. And when they get down there, it looks like, just a basic prepper basement where it's like got canned food, tons of guns, a place to sleep, all the stuff. And Lori starts passing out guns and giving her little speech on like, this is what this gun is for, this is what this one is for, and has her little monologue moment. Um, and we go back to the sheriff, the doctor, and Allison, who is in the backseat of the cruiser. So it's like the caged area where like you can't open it from the outside. And the sheriff sees Michael Myers and just mows him down with his car, which good for him. But I was worried for a minute that like it wasn't gonna actually be Michael. Like it was just gonna be a random person who dressed up like him. Which I'm guessing in this universe nobody dresses like Michael Myers. I don't know. Because I didn't they could have
Well,
used that, but
spoiler alert, that happens in Terrifier 2.
oh, there we go.
So there are fucked up people in
Yeah.
things like that who will take. I mean, wasn't it last year or maybe it was a year before or something like there was a thing about people dressing up like Dahmer because of the show
Yeah.
that came out and it's like no.
Well, and I'm like, there's still people who are alive that are victims that survived. I'm like, imagine someone like, yeah, there's boundaries that shouldn't be crossed because there's no need to do it. But anyway, it was Michael. The sheriff is trying to shoot him to kill Michael because like this would be the moment to do it. He's knocked out, he's unconscious, and the doctor is standing over Michael with a pen and he clicks it and a scalpel comes out and he just stabs the sheriff in the ear, killing the sheriff. And then he puts on Michael's mask. He's like, so this is what it feels like. So this is the moment we find out
the doctor is insane.
And it brought me back to kind of like a little the Joker and Harley Quinn moment where like the doctor falls in love with the crazy person and becomes crazy themselves.
See, feminine qualities.
What
about all the people he murdered? What murder?
He's just a not hot Harley Quinn. That's all.
He's just a guy.
And not a badass.
He's literally just a guy. Yeah, but this was fucking insane because so Allison's stuck in this car and the doctor puts Michael Myers in the back seat with her.
The fucking audacity. Like, if you love him so much, you put him in the front seat with your ass, not in the back with an innocent girl.
He knew she was dangerous. So, the doctor knew Michael was dangerous.
Oh, I know. I was so, like, the fear she had to feel. Jesus Christ.
And like Michael's unconscious and Allison is like slunked up against her side of the car door, and she tells the doctor that Michael like stirred and whispered something to her, and if he pulls over the car she'll tell him what he said. So the doctor pulls over right away because they're on their way to Lori's house, and he's like, what was the name? Was it the sister? And she like makes a weird face and he's like, was it Judith? And then it just like wakes Michael Myers up. Like hearing his sister's name was like, brrr. So
yeah.
And then he did the when a stranger calls move from under the bridge. He just like kicks his feet back and then just pushes the police gate forward on the doctor. And I don't remember how they got out of the back seat.
Well, he basically, from what I remember, like he kicked the gate down and like slammed the doctor's head into the steering wheel, which like opened it up. So like they just crawled out through the driver's door through the front.
Okay.
Because Michael drags him onto like the street and is standing over him for a little while, and while this is all happening, Allison like runs into the woods, which is honestly her best option at this point because I don't think she can see the police cruiser that's down the road. I don't think they have like their lights on or anything.
Well, yeah, because she doesn't know where she is. She's just scared, so she just,
books it while he's distracted. Good for her.
Yeah, she doesn't stick around for the monologue that doesn't come.
Yeah, and Michael does like the ultimate all-time curb stomp on the doctor's face and just it's mush. there's nothing left.
That man. I mean, that's just the thing about Michael Myers. He has strength.
He a strong boy.
Could he open all of my pickle jars, please? What would I have to do to like earn his trust and be like, can you please open this jar for me? Oh God, I'm the doctor.
You'd probably have to like offer up sacrifices.
Hey, Daddy.
No.
Do I? Michael Myers.
I mean, at least he's not gonna like be annoying and talk too much and say stupid things.
Oh my God, the literal grumpy sunshine. Him completely silent and stoic. Me.
It could work.
Well, oh, and he's old too. You know what? I think I love a new man.
Oh God. Like I said, all the people we're not supposed to like, Rachel loves.
I can't help it. It's Britney Spears' fault.
Toxic? Are you talking about that song?
Oh, Mama, I'm in the criminal.
Oh, okay.
That song's been popping up a lot. And it's like, you know what? It's her fault. I blame Britney.
Leave Britney alone.
That's too good. Anyway, so Allison has run off in the woods and Karen is in the basement. So we're all on the property now. Nobody knows that Allison is there, but Allison is running and eventually will make her way towards the house. Karen realizes that her mom wanted Michael to come to the house and to like draw him out there. Ray goes outside to check on the police cruiser guys because he's a nice person. But
right.
It is revealed now that Michael Myers has gotten to those policemen and they're dead, and one cop in the driver's seat is holding the head of the other cop who has the flashlight like shoved up like where his neck would have been to be like a jack-o'-lantern. But my thought is like, because it's like empty in there. So I'm like,
that's what I'm saying. Like,
Michael, you took the time. Michael took the time to like get out like the brain and guts and everything else for a bit. Man.
I mean, he took his sister's gravestone in the first one. How inconvenient could that possibly get to dig up a gravestone, carry it around, and then put it on a headboard? Like, and then he hung up the one kid. Like, he has his little like creative moments. He created a cop-o'-lantern. Like, how does he come up with these things?
I don't know, man. But you know what? He commits to the bit. You know, all we're doing is just adding qualities of Michael Myers I am attracted to. I've seen the movie a few times and I'm like, you are so boring. But I guess when I dissect, I'm like, hey, wait a minute.
Honestly, it's one too many arts and crafts moments in the psych ward.
That's really it. Movies make the psychos more creative.
Exactly. Too many movie nights, too many craft nights.
Yeah. Oh no. Katrina made a note. Ray is killed by Michael, but we didn't like him anyway. Oh, I was sad when he died.
I didn't care.
He loved his family in his weird little munchkin way. And
I mean, it's sad I was sad for Allison and Karen because they were losing a father and a husband. But in the grand scheme of things, I didn't care about Ray. I never did. I never loved him anyway. Lori is looking out of the window and she sees Michael outside and yells at Karen to get into the basement. And Karen was like, where's Ray? But then never really asked about it again. Which In
Well,
that instance, I would be like, listen, I need to find my spouse before I go into this fucking basement. So I would have been murdered myself.
oh, I'm
Just
glad
saying.
that you love Yuri. I would be like, bye.
Fair enough. If you knew Cinnamon was out there, you would look for her before going to that basement.
I would never have let Cinnamon out. I love
Karen
you.
goes to the basement.
I would put her in like one of those little baby backpacks.
Oh,
She'd
there
hate
you
it, but I'm
go.
like, nope, that's it. We're together.
So Lori like braces herself up against like she puts this giant metal bar up against her front door and like is leaning up against no, she's like peeping out the glass, which is like not easy to look out of because it's like angled. Which if this is her security bunker, why she has a door with glass in it, I don't know. It doesn't
Because
make
they used
sense.
that shot in the trailer, so we needed to see something.
I
Get
guess,
together.
but so Michael, in all his glory, strength, breaks through and just starts like choking her through the door, like through the glass door. It's crazy. Picked her up even. Crazy stuff.
Hot.
But she is like trying to get her shotgun turned around so that like to get a shot off at him, but he grabs the end, which is dumb on his part. And she shoots off like the last two fingers of his hand. After all that, Lori goes down into the basement with Karen and turns on the spotlights as Michael is coming through the front door. And she shoots up like through the basement floor. And I'm like, do you want him to know where you are? Because that
I
doesn't
thought
make
the
sense to
same
me.
thing.
And I'm like, you're also creating a peephole for a peeping Tom. Make it make sense. But she basically is like, I have to finish this. And so she leaves the basement.
Lori runs off, gets Karen in the basement, and then we cut outside to Allison, who has stumbled upon the shooting range, and the floodlights have gone on. So all she sees are these distorted, ugly, dirty mannequins, and it's very creepy. It was a really well done shot.
I would have started crying and throwing up right there.
I'd be like, just take me now. I don't want to deal with it anymore.
I would just become a mannequin and then hide, like camouflage yourself with the mannequins.
Yeah.
It's probably safer in the woods than at the house right now.
Yeah, but it's a horror movie, so what do we gotta do? Investigate.
Obviously.
And then Michael left Allison a good blood trail to follow to get her into the house. And Lori is running around securing all of the rooms. So she's going in them, looking in every nook and cranny. When she's cleared the room, she pulls down like a little security gate.
Mm-hmm.
So like that room is good. Then she goes into a room that has more mannequins, supplies, and who was hiding in the closet?
Well, okay. I was stressed out in this moment because I was like, oh my God, what if her granddaughter is in there like hiding? And she just starts blasting into the closet and it's her granddaughter. But she is level headed
She's
and
Laurie
she,
Strode.
yes. So she opens it and little Ray Bay is curled up in the closet, dead. And I was, when I watched this, I was like, oh, Michael's in the closet again. And I put hashtag gay icon. And but it wasn't him. So anyway. And like they built up so much tension with this scene because like she's getting closer to the mannequins to like check and see if Michael's behind any of them. And in my opinion, he's larger than these mannequins. So I don't know how he's hiding behind one. It makes no
It was in the script.
the physics on this, like I don't understand, but who am I, right? So
Whatever.
he comes from out behind a mannequin. I don't know how to spell that word, so I just put that in there because I know Rachel will probably judge me for it. And they
Spelled like
fight.
that.
I knew it didn't. So they start fighting, and he ends up pushing her and like throwing her off the balcony. And like now they're even. They've thrown each other off of a balcony. It's always a balcony with these two, I swear. And she does the Michael trick where when he looks away, she runs off and like she's not there anymore. But during all of this, Allison shows up and she starts kind of like calling out, and I'm like, oh God, please don't do that. Um, and then Karen opens up the basement island door, gets Allison into the basement with her, and Michael kind of like hears something moving, so he goes to investigate.
Everyone's
And
stupid. They're all investigating.
Just stop investigating. And because he lost his knife, he grabs the fire poker, which is always a good choice. Hashtag when a stranger calls. Hashtag Friday the 13th. Hashtag Halloween. And they like Michael is like trying to break the kitchen island. And this whole time, I'm like, get your freaking gun, Karen. Like, what are you doing? And so finally, there's a gun that says like KS etched into it, and she grabs it. And Michael finally gets the island broken off. And this scene I really liked because it convinced me, and I was like, oh shit. So like there's nobody there. And then finally Michael shows up at the top of the stairs, and Karen is panicking, she's crying, she's calling out for her mom, like, I can't do it, I can't do it. So that kind of like I think plays into Michael's psyche of like, oh, this will be easy. And then as soon as he like shows his face fully, she's like, gotcha, and shoots him straight in the fucking head.
Oh, it was so great. The first time I saw, I was like, hurrah!
Oh, like, good for her. Like, it paid off. I'm like, listen, you did not go through all that childhood trauma to bitch out right now and not be a badass bitch.
Oh man. Honestly, like a great final girl in her own right. Karen. Yeah. You're the only Karen in the world I like because you're Judy Greer. You're the best. Yeah, and then we get the like reverse from the first movie where Michael like appeared in a little shadow behind Lori in the house. So when Karen shoots Michael, then we see Lori behind Michael and she stabs him. He falls down into the bunker. Lori gets Karen and Allison like to come up the stairs. They pull Allison out first. Then Michael does his little sit-up thing. Great abs. And he grabs Karen. Then they're able to get Michael off of her. And then badass of the century. They like hit some button and then a bunch of metal bars go over the thing. And then Karen is explaining to Allison that like the little bunker was never like a safe house thing like for them. Like it's not a cage, it's a trap.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lori goes and like pulls out like this big like it's not dynamite but like a long candlestick or like something.
It's one of the like it's a flare, I think.
Flare, that's it. I'm like, it's not dynamite, but it's not a candle. It's somewhere in between.
Right. Yeah, and she basically, and then a bunch of like gas, like pipes start like putting out gas and everything. And she has her little like happy Halloween, Michael. I don't know if she says that. He just stands there.
He's standing there and he's like, you only see his eyes like through the mask, and he's just like, you motherfucker bitch, you motherfucking bitch. And he's just standing there, like nothing about the environment is getting to him. It's a really cool shot, but he's Michael Myers, so like he's invincible. And then all the girls run out. Allison flags down a truck that was passing by, and then they all get in the bed of it, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And then they're off staring into the distance while Lori's house explodes. The end.
Yeah. And like Allison she's in the back of the like the bed of the truck, but she still has like a death grip on that knife. So she's like, I'm like, you're okay now, but like You told your grandma
trauma,
get
baby.
why can't you just get over it, Allison?
Did you watch through the credits?
I think so.
To the very end?
Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, I always watch all the way through the end of credits. And then because at that point, when I saw it, when it came out and everything, it kind of all seems really final. But then at the very end of the credits, you just hear Michael's little and we're like, ah, motherfucker. And then I like a little bit after that, they announced that there was going to be a sequel. So I was like, Michael Myers never dies. Michael Myers never dies.
And that just triggered something for me because like in the first one, the breathing was so overdone, just like the music. And I hated heavy breathers in high school, and like I'm traumatized by my history class because I was trapped in between like 2 or 3 heavy breathers, and I hated every minute of it. So the first movie was tough for me with all the breathing.
I'll stop breathing if it bothers you.
Thanks.
So that's
overall
Halloween. I think the new one is way more interesting, especially to talk about. The first one is just, it's so basic, great for its time, respect, cool, bye.
Yeah.
We made like talking points about like trauma, how it affects you as a person, it's generational. We talked about obsession, but it's kind of just life and how things happen, and different choices will affect everyone around you. I think I did not really like Halloween Kills when I saw it, but then when I was watching Halloween again, I was seeing things that kind of said it, because Halloween Kills kind of covers some of the same timeline, but then like just the next full day. So it's like that the two movies happen within like a 3 or 4 day span of each other, which is pretty cool. And I'm not gonna tell you something that happens in the next one because I think it'll piss you off.
When I got done watching the 2018 Halloween 2 came on as like a recommended next one. So it started playing. So I saw like the first like 10 or 15 minutes of it, but then I didn't like it anymore, so I just stopped. But I wish that the movies would go into more of like the Michael lore, just because like he's such a key. I mean, he is the key to these Halloween movies. Like he only kills on Halloween night. He's insanely strong, like supernatural strong. He never dies. Like
what is the deal?
Like, do explain something. Like just anything would be better than nothing. Like I guess that's my only complaint about Halloween is like I like details, and I think that the 2018 Halloween had so many more details and like intricacies in the movie than the 1978, which is a given because horror movies back then didn't have to be, full circle refined and make sense. They just needed to be scary and people die.
Yeah, I mean, it's the baseline of all the slashers. So like that's the thing. It's like I would rather watch this new one because it's more engaging to me. Because like the first one today, like I saw you took notes. I'm like, I've seen this movie. I'm not taking notes on it. And I was just like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, dead, dead, dead. And that's a really great point that you made. It's like there's all of this death that's happening when nobody knows or cares.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't affect the characters, so it doesn't affect us. Like even if you take Scream, everybody was finding out about the murder, so everybody was included in the tension about it. So I thought that was really great. Some fun facts maybe for you to have. The line in the original where Laurie tells the two little kids to run down the street to the Mackenzies for help. They use that in Scream in the beginning when Drew Barrymore's dad tells his wife to go down the street to the Mackenzies.
I do remember you mentioning that during the Scream episode. Yeah.
And Billy Loomis, named after Dr. Loomis, who was named after Sam Loomis from Psycho. I really like Jamie Lee Curtis in this. I think that she is baller.
Yeah, I liked her. I mean, obviously, I liked her better in the 2018 version because she's a badass. And she's not, a defenseless teenage girl anymore.
Well, I don't even think in the first one is that Laurie is unlikable or anything. I really just think it comes down to like direction. Because these like half hits and then just staying there with your back to the killer, like even when she stabbed Michael in the living room with like the little knitting needle and then she takes his knife, she just sits there and like lays her head on the couch.
Yeah,
like she doesn't regard the fact that there are 2 children in that house, and no woman would do that. No woman would ever do that.
And I made the note. I'm like, first of all, either get up or double tap. Like,
yeah, it's like, not, just because it was made in the 70s doesn't mean that people weren't smart. So it's just a really interesting thing that, we have all these like formulas and stuff like that, but like I refuse to believe that nobody would do anything.
But I think it was key to watch the first movie to understand Halloween 2018, because like I think you could watch the 2018 version and like get the gist of it, honestly. I don't think you have to watch it, but I mean there are parts that are helpful to have to know.
Yeah. Well, and we didn't really touch on this while we're talking about it, but there are a lot of characters and things like that that are interwoven. Like Ray at that family dinner, he talks about, so Cameron is Lonnie's son, and like who that is, and that's like a person who's around. So like there are characters and like different events and references to some of the other movies, but at the baseline it's really just about Laurie. So I didn't feel like it was super important to mention, but like it is there.
Yeah. So I think that it's nice that anybody could watch Halloween 2018 and follow along without having to watch the 1978 version.
What else would you like to mention? Do you have next month's movie in mind?
I was thinking about it. I recently rewatched Silent Hill, and I was like, that movie is just has a lot of details to it that I think it would be a really long episode for me. Like I would talk too much. I've been seeing a lot of like Five Nights at Freddy's recently, but I've never watched it. Have you seen it?
No, there's a new one coming out, but there is an old one.
Okay. I was like, I've seen a lot of it, like commercials and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know if I would like that or not.
I want to see it. I need to see the first one first, but I want to. I like Josh Hutcherson and I like Matthew Lillard, so.
Honestly, I don't know, because like November really, like, I'm sure there's a Black Friday.
There is. I think there's a Black Friday movie that came out last year. There's that one. There's one called Thanksgiving that I've never seen.
Really? I'm not watching.
So basically what we're saying is we don't know what movie we're going to do for November, but we gave you 2 in October, so get off our backs.
We will figure it out. It probably won't even be holiday related at this point. It just may be whatever we want to do, because we've done 2 in a row that we
didn't even want to. So you're welcome.
We appreciate you listening. We hope you enjoyed it.
And please enjoy this musical interlude.
We look forward to your feedback. We encourage it. Let us know if there's...
please give us any feedback. Let us know that anyone is even listening to us.
Are you out there? We'll catch you on the flip side.
On the flippity flop. Thank you guys for listening. We hope that you enjoyed our episode, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Find us on Twitter or Instagram to request a movie or even just to discuss your thoughts at Booze and Boobs. Or send us an email, boozeandboobs@gmail.com.
Yeah, and we're working on turning this into a thing. So if you can please follow us on Patreon, our account there is Booze and Boobs also.
And what are some of the benefits to joining our Patreon?
Oh, Katrina, I am so glad that you asked. As a patron, you will get early release episodes, bloopers, mini episodes where we showcase scenes from the movies that we're talking about or just conversations that we're having that we had to cut from our recording.
All that and more. And they're fun tiers. You can be an A cup, a C cup, or you can join the Triple D Plus group like us.
We truly appreciate your support, and we look forward to growing our following to create more content for listeners like you.
So we'll see you next time, or else.
Yeah, let's end it with a threat.